Okay, I think this is kind of important because a lot of people have been getting into shadow work, and I've been doing it for a couple years now, and I'm noticing that there is a very easy trap to fall in with this whole practice, and I just wanted to share that with some of you who are on the similar journey. Hopefully, if you are feeling stuck or if you are feeling in a loop, this helps to kind of break you out of it a little bit. But essentially, we forget, or not forget about, but we tend to misunderstand the integration process. The integration process isn't necessarily just like facing your shadow and dealing with all these like unhidden, because it really is unhidden. A lot of what's unconscious is always there. You're just not like readily aware of it, but all these unhidden truths about you, your personality quirks and stuff like that. It's not just about facing these things. It's not just about naming these things, being aware of the patterns, being able to name the patterns. It's also, and more importantly, about developing a different relationship to yourself and all of these things. It's not enough to just be conscious and aware of these differences. It's also, how can we forgive and accept these aspects of who we are? Like, for example, I spent a lot of time throughout my 20s trying to be as mindful as humanly possible and as zen as humanly possible. And whenever I would relapse, so to speak, I would be extra harsh on myself, or I would try to dissociate from that aspect of who I am. Ever since doing shadow work, I've become more acutely aware that I can't just shut myself down like that. I need to forgive myself and understand that like these things will happen. But there's still this feeling of being stuck or numb, because we want things to be linear, when in reality it's supposed to be messy, and we're supposed to not just know why we have these messy responses and forgive ourselves for having these messy responses, but to really truthfully meet ourselves in those spaces, allow ourselves to feel these things, not just understand where they're coming from and why we're reacting the way that we're reacting, but like almost be thankful that these weird, quirky pitfalls that in our personalities exist, because everything that we initially don't like about ourselves is there to keep us safe to some degree. Now, a lot of these things we might not need anymore. Like, I'm a child of abuse, so there's a lot of like defensiveness, walls up, all that kind of stuff, judginess, all that stuff that comes from living that kind of childhood that is no longer needed in my adult life. But because of the traumatic upbringing, those triggers and trauma responses are still there. So I've become more mindful of those things, but also not trying to suppress them, not trying to keep them from happening. Allow yourself to break, allow yourself to feel terrible, because it's allowing yourself to go through these processes while understanding them is how you get through them, as opposed to being mindful of them and trying to maneuver around them. And I think that that's a very easy trap that a lot of us that do shadow work will find ourselves in. Like, it's so easy for me to be analytical. It's so easy for me to understand, oh, I'm like this because my dad, or I'm like this because my mom, or because this happened in my childhood. Well, that's great. That's not going to stop these trigger responses or these things from coming up. I need to change my relationship to them. So I just wanted to share that with a lot of you really quick, because shadow work is very intense, and it can actually lead to very severe dissociation and feeling like you are not yourself. You don't understand who you are anymore. The world doesn't feel real anymore. I know that in 2024, early on in 2024, I started feeling like that, like everything is so unreal. But in allowing myself to also even go through that process, the feeling of dissociating and not feeling real, I think this is the thing. The whole point to all of this is to give yourself permission to go through whatever you're going through. Because what you're going through, you're meant to go through, no matter how good or bad it is. And the only way to, I guess, heal properly is to allow yourself to go through what you're going through at all stages. And there's a lot of things that we went through that we didn't allow ourselves to fully go through. That in shadow work, you'll see yourself doubling back to things that you've been through, whether it be childhood or traumatic relationships or whatever it is. So give yourself permission, give yourself some grace. There's a reason why the word mourning is part of my name, Morning Coffee, because everything I do is all about the mourning process. And I think that allowing ourselves to mourn the parts of ourselves that no longer serve us, and sit with those things and really like appreciate what once was without yearning for it, then you're able to alchemize it into something else. You're able to move forward. But unfortunately, things are not as linear as we want them to be. For example, I had a friendship with someone on a spiritual level for 12 years. And for 12 years, we only tried to show each other the good side. But because it wasn't authentic, it eventually led to a very severe falling out. Not because we disagreed on some kind of hot topic or whatever it is. It's because the truth finally bubbled out of her. We both had a underlying romantic connection to the friendship that we had, and that wasn't something that she wanted to explore. Now, I understood that and respected that, but at the same time, it was still part of the relationship. And when something is so integral to a connection like romance, and that cannot be embraced, or that cannot be even addressed to some degree, sometimes those relationships need to be severed. And there were a couple times where throughout the decade where there was a severance period, but there needed to be an actual severance. And so she finally took the leap to live her truth and end the relationship. And it hurt, but in the hurt, I realized this person was never truly a friend to begin with, because she always kept me at arm's length and always made it so I had to kind of like work to win her approval or her audience as a friend. And so that's a deeper thing for me to look at. Like, why do I feel like I need to work really hard to have someone's approval? You know, and a lot of us see that in romantic partnerships, but even just like a friendship or like, so that tragedy sometimes is meant to happen in order to get us to really like live more authentically. And that's what shadow work is all about. Shadow work is not about like being better or more enlightened or more centered or any of that stuff. It's truly at its core, really just about being more authentic. So hopefully this video helped you out a little bit.